to talk about the types of angles that we talked about yesterday, corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, and same side or consecutive interior angles. And what we're gonna do is learn some relationships about them, and then we're going to be given diagrams and we have to find missing angles. And then at the end, we're gonna have to use algebra to solve for different variables. And again, yesterday I was telling you guys the difference between regular and advanced. Some of the problems they give you in this section for algebra are pretty hard. So make sure you pay attention about that. So everything that we do today, the two lines that we have to be parallel. So nothing I'm talking about today works unless these two lines are parallel. And what this first postulate says is if you have two lines cut by a transversal and they're parallel, all of your pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. So what that means is if I knew this was 100, I would know this is 100. Does that make sense? Remember, corresponding are in the same position. Then, do you guys get if this is 100, wouldn't this be 80? Because it's a line, right? If that's 80, this is corresponding with that, okay? What do you guys think angle 4 would be? 100, because these two are what? Vertical, right? So if this is 100, this is 100. And then if this is 80, wouldn't this one be 80? Okay. So one thing I just kind of want to show you here is that if those two lines are parallel, these two angles and these two angles are going to be equal, and these two and these two are going to be equal all the time. So really, if you know one angle, you can find all the rest if the lines are parallel, okay? So let's look here. They tell us angle 1 is 51, and we want to find some other ones. So angle 1 is 51. And the first thing they ask us for is what is angle 15? 51. And isn't that because those are corresponding, right? So this is 51. And because we use corresponding angles, and it says tell which postulate you use, we would say corresponding are equal. That's all you would really have to say, okay? Then they say, find the measure of angle 16. What do you guys think? 51. And how did we know this was 51? These are vertical, okay? So what I could say here is 16 is for 51, sorry. And we could say vertical angles are equal, okay? On your homework today, I don't make you say why, but just so you see why we did that, okay? Now let's look at this one. What does this symbol right here mean? Parallel. And remember, nothing I talk about today is true if the two lines are not parallel. So this says angle 18 is 42, and they want us to find angle 22. 42, and that is because they're corresponding, right? So angle 22 is 42. This one doesn't ask us to say why. And then they want angle 25. What would that be? Aren't these corresponding and these vertical, right? Perfect. So this is 42, okay? Now, we're gonna learn a rule about corresponding angles, consecutive interior, alternate exterior. So the next one we're gonna talk about is what happens if these two lines are parallel with our alternate interior angles. And what it says is your alternate interior angles are also congruent. So here's how this works. If they told me this is 57, aren't 3 and 6 alternate interior? So if this is 57, what's this? 57. Hello, you okay? Okay. So alternate interior are equal or congruent. Okay? So that's another thing we know today. And it's both pairs. Do you guys understand if that's 57, this is 123? And if this is 123, this is 123. Do you guys understand why it's 123? Okay. Now, let's look at our alternate exterior. Do you guys all remember alternate exterior is like 1 and 8? Remember, alternate means on opposite sides of the transversal. Exterior means they're outside of these two lines, okay? So alternate exterior angles are congruent. So if they told us this was 110, do you guys get this would be 110? What would this be? Yep, and this would be 70. Everybody understand that? Okay. Then let's look, here. Now, every type that I've talked about so far are equal. There's one that's not equal, and that is our consecutive interior angles. They equal 180, okay? So, consecutive interior angles equal 180, or you could think of it, they're supplementary, okay? Now, remember consecutive yesterday meant on same side of our transversal, and interior meant they were inside of here. So 3 and 5 are consecutive interior, 4 and 6 are consecutive interior. So if I on this told you this was 120, what would angle 5 be? 60, and that is because these are consecutive interior, and this rule says they're supplementary or equal to 180. Now, if this is 120, what's this? 60 because they form a line, right? And then what would this one be? 120. Okay. All right. Now, let's go here. Okay, so this is kind of a summary of what I just went over. And you'll notice a lot of times what I do on the top of a page is I'll just summarize this and I'll say corresponding are equal, alternate interior are equal, alternate exterior are equal, and consecutive interior equal 180, okay? If you wanted to add this to your cheat sheet, okay, that kind of tells you what you're going to do, okay? So anywhere on there, you could add this. So anywhere on your cheat sheet, if you wanted to add that, then you would have it for the test. You might already know it, you might not need it written down, but if you do, that would be something I would write down. And if you were gone yesterday, I strongly suggest you watch the video from yesterday so you understand what these are, okay? Because that was something that I talked about yesterday is very important. We use it a lot in this chapter and in future chapters, okay? This part I'm gonna wait to talk to until we get to some algebra problems later. So let's go to this page first, okay? It says the diagram represents the floor tiles in Michelle's house, and really one of the things this is missing is it should say these two are parallel, okay? And then if you have two different sets of sides, or of lines that are parallel, you use one set of arrows on the first, and you'd use two sets of arrows on the next one. So this is what it would look like. So this really should have been marked, okay? So here's what they tell us here. Angle 2 right here is 125. And they ask us for angle 3. So you can kind of cover that up. Can you guys tell what kind 125 and 3 are? Interior, and so they should be equal, so this is 125. Okay? Then, the next one, this just copied weird, but the measure of angle 4 is what that is asking for. So what do you guys think angle 4 would be? Yeah, because these form a line, right? They would add up to 180. So if that's 125, this is 55. Very good. Okay. Then, if we look here, notice these two are parallel and these two are parallel. If you had a third set of lines parallel, they'd have 3 arrows on each. So this says angle 5 right here is 2x minus 10. And angle 7 right here is x plus 15. What kind are those? Corresponding. And what do we learn about corresponding? They're equal. So what I would do to solve this, you guys, is I would just say 2x minus 10 equals x plus 15. So you're going to notice we're going to do quite a bit of algebra today. So I'm going to bring this x over by subtracting it. 2x minus x is x. Minus 10 equals 15. Add 10. And I get x equals 25. Okay? That is for x. All right? Now, let's go to this page right here. Now, in this problem, what they're telling us is that angle 3 right here is 75. And angle 10 right here is 115. Okay? Now, this is kind of a trick question, and it's on your quiz next week. You also have one like it in your assignment today. So here's the deal. Notice these two are parallel, and I can tell that because of these arrows. Okay? That means, like if this is 75, angle 1 is going to be 75, okay? But notice these two are not parallel. So what that tells us, if these two are not parallel, that tells us that this angle and that angle are not going to be equal. Do you guys get that? Mm-hmm. These are not parallel. So I can't say that corresponding angles are going to be equal here. I can't say that angle 2 is 115, okay? The only thing that I can use when I'm doing these relationships is these two lines are parallel. This is a transversal. I can fill in every other angle here. Now, do you guys get this? If this is 75, do you get that 75? Do you get this as alternate interior? So this is 75, and this is 75. Do you understand that? Okay. Then, what do you guys think angle 4 would be? 105. Angle 7 would be 105. Angle 2 would be, and angle 5 would be 105. Very good. I'm gonna just change this one to green, just so you can see the pattern a little bit better, okay? So notice, all the time, these four are equal, and these four are equal when you have parallel lines, okay? Now let's go over here. What they tell us is angle 10 is 115, okay? What other angle here would I know then? 13 would be, okay? What else? 12 and 15 would be 115. Do you guys all get that? It's always diagonally, those four are the same. Then what about the other four? 65, and it's because these form a line. Perfect, okay? I always fill that in, and then I go here. But I wanna tell you a question I have all the time. During the quiz, kids will come up to me and they'll say, why is this angle and that angle not the same, but they're corresponding? Because these two lines do not have arrows on them. You can only use those like relationships I've been talking about if the two lines are parallel. So let's see, angle 2 we got 105, angle 7 we got 105, angle 14 we got 65, angle 5 we got 105, angle 15 we got 115, angle 9 we got 65. Okay? All right. Everybody understand that? We're good? Okay, now let's go here. Now this says measure of angle 4 is 2x minus 17. Angle 1 is 85. Now, because you guys are advanced, this will happen to you a lot in this section, where you guys are gonna look at these and you're gonna be like, we didn't learn what kind of angles those are. Do you guys notice those two are not any of the four that we learned? Okay, so here's how I do this. I take one of the angles and I move it to its corresponding position. It doesn't matter which one I move, but do you guys get that if this is 85, isn't this 85, right? Now do I know something about two angles that form a line? They 180. So I can go over here now and say 2x minus 17 plus 85 equals 180. Okay? Now I'm going to combine these two. Negative 17 plus 85. Anyone? 68. Thank you. Okay. Then I'm going to subtract 68. And I get 2x equals 112. Divide by 2. And x would be 56. Thank you. Great. Now let's look at this one. This one's easier, correct? Because are those two ones we know? They're alternate exterior and they're equal. So all we have to say here is x minus 10 equals 104. So I'm going to add 10. Okay? And I get x equals 114. Okay? Now, here it's going to say explain your reasoning. Don't worry about that part. Okay? This one says angle 5 is 68 and angle 3 is 3y minus 2. Do we know the relationship between those? They equal 180. Do you guys understand why these ones aren't equal? They're consecutive interior and they equal 180. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little hint. If I have to add two things together, I put the one with the y first. So I'm gonna write this as 3y minus 2 plus 68 equals 180, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is I have 3y plus 66 equals 180, and then what? Yep, get rid of this 66, and I would have 3y equals 114, divide by 3, 38, thank you. And that's our answer, okay? Now, if I look here, we start to get a little bit harder here. We have to find x and y, okay? So, if I have two things that have an x and one thing that has a y, would you guys know to start with the x's? Okay. And what do you guys think? Are these two any of them that we've learned? This and this? What kind? Wouldn't for corresponding this have to be over here? This one and that one are not any of them that we've learned. So you have to move one. Do you remember that? Do you guys see that that one and that one are not any of them that we've learned? Okay. When I move one, you guys, I move it to the corresponding position. I'm gonna take this 3x and I'm gonna move it right there. Now what do I know about those? They equal 180. So I'm gonna go 9x plus 12 plus 3x equals 180. Okay? 9x plus 3x is 12x plus 12 equals 180. Then I'm gonna subtract 12 and I get 12x equals 168. Divide by 12 and x is 14, okay? And that is our answer. Now I'm not done yet because I have to find y, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put 14 back into one of these two. Doesn't this one look easier to put it into? What's 3 times 14? Yep. Okay. What relationship do we know between this angle and that angle? They're a linear pair, right? They form a line. And if they form a line, what do we know? You need rulers?
They form a line, and they get from point A to point B. No, can I borrow some protractors again?
Yeah, right there. You can
Maybe
take the
some-
whole thing if you want.
Right.
Alright, sounds good. Okay, so if two angles form a line, what do we do with them? They equal 180, okay? So do you get this now as 42 and this is 4y minus 10? So 4y minus 10 plus 42 is gonna equal 180, okay? Now, negative 10 plus 42 is a positive 32. And then I keep using algebra. So I subtract 32. And then 180 minus 32 is 148. I divide by 4. And y is, what'd you say? Thank you, 37. Now, if you were on the test, you could go back and put 37 in here. Go 4 times 37 minus 10. And then this is 42, and make sure they add up to 180. So you can always kind of check if you did it correctly. Now let's look at this one. This one's very similar to this. Notice we have two things that have y's. But do you notice those two things with y's are not any of the 4 types? So we have to move one, and I always say move it to its corresponding position. Do you get this 3y could move here, right? Now don't these form a straight line? So what do we know? They equal 180. So I'm gonna go 5y minus 4 plus 3y equals 180. Now 5y plus 3y is 8y minus 4 is 180. Then I'm gonna add 4, and I get that 8y is 184. Divide by 8, and y is 23. Okay. Now, does anyone see something I could do to find x? 3 times 23 right here, I could put in. What's 3 times 23? Okay. Now, do you guys know what kind this and that are? The two with the purple dots in them. Yeah, corresponding. Aren't they in the same position? So now I can say 2x plus 13 equals 69. Subtract 13. And I can say 2x equals 56. Divide by 2. And x is 28. Okay. Get that? Is that what you guys got was 28? Okay. Now there are going to be times like in your assignment or on a quiz where like that 40 is kind of just hanging out there and you might not know which angle the 40 is to. This 40 is right there. That's what they mean. But if you can't tell ever, please come ask me on a quiz if you're not sure where it is supposed to be. Now, if these two are right next to each other and form a line, what could I do with those two? They form a line equal 180. So I can say 5x plus 40 equals 180. Now, subtract 40. And I get 5x equals 140. Divide by 5. And x is 28. Okay. Now, anyone see what I could do now that would help me? Yeah. Like right here? Yeah. Okay. What I would do, okay, you can do that. I would probably move the 40 just because you wouldn't have to find what the angle is. Do you get that I could take that 40 and move it down here? Because that's a corresponding spot. Now, do I know something about those two? Okay.
A linear pair.
They're a linear pair. So now what I can say is 3y minus 1 plus 40 equals 180. Okay? And I'd get 3y, negative 1 plus 40 is 39. Okay? Subtract 39. And I get 3y equals 141. Divide by 3. 47. Thank you. Okay. All right, last page. Okay, so when you guys look at this one, you might think, wow, that looks kind of tough. Okay. One thing I can tell you guys, if you ever struggle by looking at a diagram and you think, God, it would be easier if this were extended and this were extended and this were extended, that was extended, this was extended, and this was extended, you can certainly just extend those so they look more like what we had in the past, okay? Now, we have two problems. We have one to solve for y and one to solve for x. And in this case, the 5y and the 120 lie along this line, so we're gonna solve for y with those. The 2x and the 108 lie along that, so we're gonna solve that with that. Let's start with the 2x. What do you guys know about those two angles? Alternate interior. What do we learn about alternate interior? Equal. So doesn't this equal that? So 2x equals 108. X would equal 54. That's one answer. Okay? Then, if I look, can you tell what kind those two are? And consecutive interior equal 180. Very good. So I can go 5y plus 120 equals 180 and solve that. So I'm going to subtract 120 and I get 5y equals 60. Y is 12. Thank you. Very good. And you know, if I was doing this, like especially on a test or a quiz, and you get a decimal, and it's like a ugly decimal, like 5.23, blah, 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 keeps going on, that should tell you you did something wrong. You could maybe get like 0.5 or 0.75, but you shouldn't get a super ugly decimal. Now here, it might help you to extend these again, but if you don't need that, that's fine. But certainly take the time to do that if you need it, okay? Now, again, if you're wondering, this 3y plus 40 is this angle right there, okay? Now, this is important to you guys. These two lines right here are parallel. These two lines are not. So when I go to write equations, I can use this as an equation and these together. But I can't use these and these because these two lines are not parallel. Okay? So let's look at these two. Are those easy? What do we know about these two? Yeah, so would we know what x is right away? 60, very good. All right, so x is 60, okay? Now, we have these two that form a straight line. What do we know when they form a straight line? 180. And now I know that x is 60, so do you guys agree I could put x in there and find what that angle is? 3 times 60 minus 70 is 180 minus 70, which is 110. Do you guys get that? So this angle is 110. What could I do with these two then?
You can make a linear pair.
Yes. So I can go 3y plus 40, and then I'm going to use the 110 here, not the 3x minus 70, and like Matthew said, that equals 180, okay? So we'd get 3y plus 150 equals 180, subtract 150, and 3y equals 30. Okay? Now, your assignment today is a worksheet that I posted on Schoology, and you're gonna do all of it, okay? So this one I just typed up, and you're gonna have to do it all, okay? So I think there's 29 questions, but the first, like 18 should go fast for you. And I'm gonna make a key while you guys are working.